Hey, Reef Builders, and welcome back to another session of Reef Therapy. Today, joined by the owner of Triton, Mr. Ehsan Dashti, and we'll get to know him a little bit. We'll also talk about all things ICP and N-DOC, all the things that are, hot topics these days. Salem also in the house, as well as Raj, and we're gonna put Ehsan in the hot seat today. But first, let's talk about a little bit about your background, because I don't know if a lot of people are familiar with Triton's beginnings, and how you got into the hobby, how you got into this whole thing. So let us know your background a little bit.
Oh yeah, that's not hard. I can actually remember that. It's not too long. Yeah, it is. It's So I started reef keeping when I was 12. So I never had a freshwater tank. I started right away saltwater. And it was next to my bed in my room, when I was 12. So it's the very beginnings of reef keeping, to be honest. I had like a air-driven skimmer and stuff like that. So it was not high tech like it is not right now. Okay, and I started it back then. Finished my school degree, went to uni, studied technical informatics, you call it, like back in Germany, right? I'm not born in Australia or something. I'm born in Iran back then, refugeed over to Germany, grown up in Germany, went to uni in Germany, had technical informatics, chemistry, and then started Triton in Germany back then. My dad is a chemist, my mom is a pharmacist, so it wasn't too far away to go to that chemical kind of route that, back then was Randy Holmes, was somebody that was doing that a lot, For me, that was one of the persons I looked up to kind of read his stuff and, advanced accurate stuff like that. Like, it was a bit, compared to today, it was little and very, like, the information was very low, the amount of information. There was not that many companies too. And there was things that kind of, in that time, as a hobbyist, as a reef keeper, were kind of bugging me. I didn't like them, right? So there was a lot of, and it was always on the marketing side of things, right? There was always, you get this bottle and you get blue color or red color, or you actually buy color in a bottle or something. And back then, nobody could actually keep aquaporos. So it was very hard, it was like a very special thing. You can keep them alive. And if you could keep them alive, they were all brown. So they were like, just, looking like brown aquapora looking now. It wasn't something special. It was very special to keep them alive. But when you bought them, so when they got imported, they called them all, in Germany back then, they called them strawberry coral. All of them. Like, everything was strawberry coral, right? So there was no name. There's no aquapora. It was just strawberry coral. So you went to the shops and like, what's this? Strawberry coral. And that, strawberry coral. So you just got 5 strawberry coral. That's the way it works, right? And if you want them red, you buy the red bottle, and so that's kind of the way it all started. And then I grew up in this kind of reef keeping. And at one point, I was very successful because I was very young when I started. And people came to my house and, there was trading of corals and stuff like that. It was the way it was in the past. Like, you just, shared frags, and imports were way lower than they are now. So it's just, so people started, how do you do this? How do you do that, right? And at one point I got internet contact to people in Indonesia. And one of them was Vincent Chalias. We might not. That's a long time ago. And he was exactly like he is right now. There's no difference. It's very friendly. So it's same. And then we kind of started talking, and then I started visiting him. Way before, like, here's really the beginnings. Like, that's a really long time ago. And then I think I was 23 back then. I'm 42 now. So, so it's just, it was long time ago. And then I started actually to import coral from Vincent. So that was the first thing I did in that industry. And I sold all the corals in 2 days, a whole import, right? And then we thought, like, well, kind of, oh, that works out, you know. And then we worked from then, thought, okay, so maybe we kind of enter this industry. So I sat down with my dad and my mom, and we looked at the industry, and my dad said, oh, well, that's not an industry. That's just selling bottles. So, and then we said, yeah, well, okay. So maybe we changed that. And then we started to kind of get our head around how or what is missing in that industry. And the reality was there was a lot of tools and transparency and real work kind of missing on the part of chemistry, though. I'm not saying that was missing in other places. For us, the perspective was always looking at chemistry and, you know, the coral husbandry, the part that was important for us that didn't really work out for the most of the people. And then we decided to start Triton in a very non-marketing way. So I was very against advertising and marketing. Maybe I was too young.
What year was that?
That was 2008. So that's pretty long, like 16, 17 years ago around, right? 6 years, around then we kind of started it. And then there was problems that you don't even, nobody knows now anymore. Like, you know, ionic disbalances or bromide in chloride salts. And so people had problems back then. Salts were not controlled to the trace element amounts or for contamination. People only saw 6% of their aquarium, like visible was only, you know, the droplet tests you had. So we thought, now we need to change that. You know, like that's not going to work for a long time. People actually really, were unsuccessful, but coming out of it without any knowledge about it. So they smashed the tank, they crashed it, but they didn't know why. And it's very hard to then restart it, you know, and then run into the same problem again, right?
I don't know if that's really changed much.
Well, it's changed from a chemical perspective of contamination for sure, right?
Yeah.
But it's not like we have the solution to everything, but we really did like a lot of work on that part. So it got to another level after we started. It's outside of Triton too. So, you know, salt producers nowadays, they need to make good salt. They need to be careful with their salt because people can test it. Not with us only. There's so many ICPs out there. They can test it everywhere. So it's visibility that makes the industry better, right? So in the past, you would have so many salts that wouldn't be controlled. Some of them coming from China with just sodium chloride back then, right? So to be honest, that's not real salt. You can't do that anymore. And only the possibility that you can check as an end consumer, these simple things, help the industry a lot, right? So that's kind of giving us a bit more trust that we have a quality control in there, have that there is something that will help you at one point, help you find the solution to your problem. That was actually an ignition of a totally new reef keeping, right? So that was a Triton movement, we called it back then, where people were sending in products, they just start to find out, that little bottle that says fluoride, which we were the first ones to measure fluoride, that bottle, is there really fluoride in there? Because you didn't know. You just put it in and that's it, right? Or is iodine in there? Or is there any trace element in that bottle that I buy? And that's kind of giving you as a reef keeper, as the person that is the user, a lot, like it's empowering you to and gives you confidence that you're doing actually what you want to do to the aquarium. And that wasn't possible before. So there was a lot of stuff sold, like trace elements and things, but nobody was aware of if that's really raising any trace element in the aquarium, or are they just buying water in a bottle, right? That was like the in your mind, that was always bugging you when you buy these products, right? And that changed a lot. So we started this, we then approached it, and that's what I like to Salem's brought up. And I always say, like in my videos, that this open-minded thing that Salem has is it's very neat in the past. That's very much, I like that really much. And then we started to see how we can solve the most problems of aquariums and created the Triton method. And it just went from there, right? So it was a very organic growth of Triton back then. Now, obviously, we're very, very big. But yeah, back then we were very little, a family company, dad, mom, me, and my wife. Now it's a bit more, but yeah, it's just, that's the start of Triton, you know? And yeah, it was hard work. We'll definitely talk about that. It was hard work, but yeah, that's kind of the overall thing.
As we met, I think it was 2014, 2015. It was in Denver. And, you know, the only thing I knew about you at that point was Jake said, "Oh, Ehsan's a great guy. You got to meet him." And I thought, this is one crazy bastard. He brought this 6-figure machine across the Atlantic, right, to show off in Denver because it's a new technology. And if you want, like you're saying, right, if you want people to buy in that why should I do this fancy ICP test that I have no clue what it means and it seems like pseudoscience, you put it in their face and you show them. And you did it. And that was big because I could imagine, I mean, I've got quite a lot of equipment in my office and it seems like if you bump into it, it's wrecked. Like you have to go through all these calibrations and, you know, all these things that can go wrong. So to ship that across the ocean, I would think as a huge risk.
Yeah, it was, my wife called it the fight times. She called it the overkill. If you ask her, she wasn't happy with that. But yeah, it actually was a really good decision. To be honest, it is. Yeah. You know, if you look at it, it's you come up with something, and nowadays it's the same issue. We can talk about that, but it's an absolutely new thing for a reef keeper. Like, I mean, this machine, even if you show it, like nobody understands what do you want to do with it? Like you're used to bottles and you're used to a skimmer. That's what you're used to as a reef keeper. So what, you know, realistically, you come up with something like this and just say, oh, I can measure all your trace elements. People shouldn't believe you. They shouldn't, because it's just like a magical thing. Like you shouldn't say things. And just not. So Triton's name is Triton Applied Reef Bioscience, okay? And that's because my dad is a very theoretical chemist. He's a very good chemist. I respect my dad, and when he sees this, he'll be not angry with me. But it's very, very theoretical, right? And I'm another kind of chemist. I'm a very applied person. So I like to do things, you know? I like to kind of go out there. I don't like to sit in the lab and just theoretically go through, you know, this is not me. And that works really well together. Like my dad, I mean, that works, like, that's perfect, right? But for us in reef keeping, these things need to be fit for purpose. They need to be in your face. You need to understand what they're doing and what they can bring to you. And when it's something is absolutely new, you have as a company you're reliable. You need to be very reliable and very responsive to this is new and I'm going to explain it to you, right? Because otherwise you actually do not, I'm missing the words here, but it's kind of, you do not deserve the sales, you know, in a way of just typing it and not give them something they can take back to the aquarium and use it there, because that's what this machine should do, right? It gives you something for your aquarium to get more successful. So, yeah, I did that. I brought it over. People could see how it works. I explained it. I explained what it does. It's not a problem. There's nothing they can take away and copy, you know? So it was just something that you understand the service. You understand why you need to trust us. It's that main point is you trust Triton to give you the values that are correct. And we're going to talk about this. You will never know, you know, if they're what correct means, and you will use this data that we give you to make a successful reef tank. And there was no way that I can prove anybody that these are correct values. And like I say, we'll talk about this. This is a lot of questions we get, right? But I had the ability to talk to people directly. I had the ability to show them how it works. And if they trust me, trust what I'm telling them, and they use it, they'll be successful. And over time, it will prove itself to be a useful tool in reef keeping. That's the approach that my kind of company should have. That was what we talked about, my dad and me. And that's what we did. We run it over time. And that's what, at least, in reality, proven it to work. So nowadays, this idea is everywhere. I mean, we have 14 operational machines in Europe. We had, I think, 3 in America. We have Brazil. So it's just going all around the world because it's a proven way to work on a reef.
Yeah, I think you had mentioned trust was a huge factor in all of this. And, I think just you bringing a machine to show people that's a huge step to in your tank to see what those levels are. But one of the major questions that has been asked over the years is about accuracy and calibration. So what steps do you take to ensure the accuracy and precision of the water tests? And then how do you validate those results?
Yeah, that's not hard, I can tell you. So what you are actually talking about is the reliability of the method. Okay, so what we do to have a reliable method is, first of all, I created the method itself, right? So I will go through this later. I'll just give you your answer a bit straightforward to keep it clear, right? So we calibrate the machine. Calibrating an ICP machine is super easy. It's not hard. Any kind of analytical machine is easy to calibrate. You have known samples, that's certified standards. I'll probably show you that here. So it's like, we have standards like that, right? Okay. So that's the standard of iodine. Okay. It's written on there. I don't know if you can screenshot that. And certifications are things like that. So you get a certificate of, a standard that is, that's another standard, but whatever. It's 99.99 microgram per liter. It doesn't matter. It's just paperwork, right? But you buy these standards. We buy them. There are like companies that produce them. You buy them. They're super expensive for what they contain. It's absolutely ridiculous. But it's the way to work. It's the standard way. They have a certification. Normally, the certification is done by another machine, either ICP or MS, and then you get them, you buy them, you know what's inside. And then you go and teach the machine, that's the calibration, what this amount will look like, what another amount would look like, and what a zero amount would look like, let's say. And then the machine will now linear to these amounts when you test an unknown sample, what would be inside. Okay, so this is not an issue. It's very easy. And we'll, I think, have 10-point calibrations there. So we have like 10 calibrations fluid running through, and then you have all the dot points and regression, and you'll have a perfectly calibrated machine. And these machines nowadays, like an ICP machine like that, it will have a software that also detects errors. It will tell you how much deviation is between this calibration. You will have like a lot of information to know how good you are, or is it good enough, right? In real world, when we run samples, there is more you need to do to ensure they are correct, right? Because you're handling water that you don't actually know what it is. Sure, you think it is seawater, or it is aquarium water, but it's an unknown sample. You don't know what has been done to it. You don't know anything about it. So you need to treat it unknown, right? So you bring it in the lab, you put it in there, and what we do is we have known samples in between them. Maybe I can show you that. So you have like an auto sampler. Like here, that's the one here. So that's the machine, that's the auto sampler, right? So in this auto sampler, there is all this test with the barcodes. Can you see that? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And when you look at this, so for example, we have some of them not having a barcode. See that? Right? So that's the run from yesterday in Australia. There is no barcode on here because that's a known sample. So it might be like natural seawater that we use. It might be a standard solution that we have a certified standard for that we run through it, or like a seawater. You have like reference solutions. You can buy too. They're certified too. Some of them are not too happy with, but we run these things in between every 4 tests. Like we have 4 unknowns, then we'll have one of the standards we know, right? And based on that, you can see if you have errors like, things that go from one test to the other. Like let's say you have like a contamination issue through that little, I'll show you that too, through a little, see that thing here is going into the sample, right? So let's say you have tin in one sample, and then you move to the next one, you would possibly have tin on that little needle, and then you would have tin in the next sample too, but actually you contamine that sample, right? So there are things you do to inhibit that too, right? So you clean the needle, you have automatic cleaning from outside, from inside, you run cleaning solutions between the tests through all the holes. So it's an automated process, but what we do to make sure that the data is kind of not contaminated or shown always the same, is reliable, is actually checking these control samples, we call them, afterwards, and automatically we also run them through a server program. Like there's a logarithm that calculates things back if there is something wrong. So you, in the case of this machine, you call it standardization, right? So you standardize the machine, you calibrate it every day, but then you run every 4 tests, you standardize it. So you see if there's any issue, anything went up, anything gets hotter or colder, all these things kind of change a little bit to your test results, but they're linear, so they are calculable, they are not fluctuative errors, and then you can recalculate them. We do that. I look over all the results after all the logarithm, all the calculations have been done personally. Still, I'll do that. I said that in on my talks, I think 2014, you need me, there is no way. So I need to look over, I need to check them, and then I give the upload. I'll say it's free for upload and it goes, right? So there is a lot of quality control needed to make this machine fit for purpose for the people at home, right? Still, I think the perception of accuracy is wrong in the industry right now. We can talk about that later, but that's what we do. It's like in a very, very slim way, that's what we do to ensure everything is correct, accuracy-wise, and we're very successful with that. Like, there's always people who want to try to test you. They do it for 16 years now with us. There is no major issue. We're very happy. Everybody's running Triton, very successful, no problem, right? So it's not really hard to make this. And a lot of other companies do it like control-wise the same. I know that. They just looked at it and this is the best way to do it.
Yeah, I think that's the most transparency we've ever had from an ICP company before, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, really, really interesting. It's very much like my coffee maker, because it does the same thing. It rinses in between the drinks, and that way you get a consistent drink every time.
And it tastes good, man.
It does.
Raj's coffee maker is more than our houses, so
I kind of want a coffee now.
Yeah. So you've got a pretty large data set right now. You've been doing this for many years now. Is there any kind of trends that you see? Anything that was trending maybe when it first started, and then what's trending now? Can you see differences in water samples over time? And that could be based on what we're dosing to our systems and all those things now, and the more technology that we have now. But what are some trends that you've seen over this large data set over the years?
Oh, that's a lot. That would be that's a lot. So it's funny. So we have a lot of data points. Like I think we're way over 1 million right now, right? So because we have all the machines around the world, we have 5 operational machines in different countries. And they bring a lot of data, but not all of it is reliable. Okay, so you need to be careful with a lot of things with unknown samples, right? So you cannot scientifically use all the data. It's just the truth, because you have a chaotic environment that could cause a lot of things that this would be a misinformation for yourself. So you need to be very clean and clear with that. That's why the scientific work is let's say just 10 to 20% reliably working with aquariums. We be very careful with that, okay? With aquariums from people at all. It's still visible, stuff like, in America, you have a lot of lithium in your water samples. And that's true. That was from the start, and it's still the same case. It maybe has something to do with the source of salts you have in America. Like there will be salt mining, and they have, I think the magnesium, we saw at one point that the magnesium has a lot of lithium contamination, which is not a bad thing. Like it's not really harmful or something, but it's there. It's definitely visible. And regionally, the most things you see is the information causing the differences in their aquariums. So what's really cool is in America, you have different things than in UK or in Australia. And definitely different to Brazil. Very different to Brazil, right? So, and that's because if you look at Australia, the trends, and I will come to the trends, don't worry, I just want to explain to you a little bit about it. So the trend is half. It's like half American, half European, right? Kind of, okay? So it's about tending towards more American. So people here seem to take the information about reef keeping and what they should do mostly from America, okay? While in the UK, on that machine, you can see the trends moving towards Europe. So it's more what people do in Europe, right or wrong. And that's what you see in their water. So when we started, a good example for that is potassium, right? So potassium was not really testable for you guys before, okay? So just, that's a macro element. Nobody really knew what's in your water or in their water. And then what happened was in Europe, potassium was said to be the worst thing. Like if you have too much potassium, everything will die. It's like, you can read it up. It's like 20 years, maybe 15 years ago, in every forum in Europe, in UK, everywhere. Oh my God, potassium, yeah, you kill your corals, potassium, right? And in America, nobody was talking about it. So when we started measuring American water against European water, the Europeans always kind of low on potassium, while the Americans had 800 milligrams, a double amount of potassium and stuff, and nobody was scared. Nothing was happening. No, it wasn't. But this information causes these differences. Same with organic carbon, that we can talk about if you want. And in America, it is mostly right now. I did a talk back then when Jake was still alive here in Australia about that. We called it the Triton Insights. So we kind of evaluated all the differences, the main differences between the regions we tested. And America was a large trace element overdose that time. So you have an overusage of trace elements in a lot of cases. I don't know why that is. It is mainly things like zinc, nickel, cobalt. So it's kind of very specific things that you have in overdose, but that's a very common thing we see in America. Lithium is still there, it's still high, and nothing is done about it because it's not really too harmful. You won't see an effect if you go lower or something, but it's still like a fingerprint that is American tank. So I could maybe, when I see a test, I would say this is American tank, right? I can do that. Yeah, it's pretty funny. Yeah.
Okay, so in my mind, you could either use a general saltwater sample and just have all the known ion values and update all the calibration curves for iodine, bromine, whatever, etc. Or you could just have a certified iodine standard, like an individual ion every 4 sampls. So do you do a combination of those, or?
Yes, we do, but you cannot do that way. And I don't want to tell too much, but I will tell you about my my method a bit, right? So when you have salt water, to make that work with an ICP, you always need to matrix match it. So if you have a single element, right, that is not in the matrix of seawater, you won't be able to calibrate that correctly, because when you run, and it's not on now, and I switched it off because of the sound, but I could show it to you. When you have the plasma gone, right, and you inject your sample into it, so you have, like you have a nebulizer, you can't put the sample like that into a plasma. It will just go, just extinguish, right? It won't work. So what you do is you have a nebulizer, you create that fine mist of your sample, and then it goes up, creeps up that little thing, and then goes into the plasma very slowly with a little injection area, right? So when you do that, that little bit, right, if there is a lot of salt in it, it cools down your plasma. It cools it down because there is it's not only argon, there's other elements injected into it. So even a sample being 35 PSU or 30 PSU makes a big difference to this heat that is actually in that plasma region. And that causes you to have, when it's a lot of matrix, like a lot of salt, it causes your other ions to show lower because it's not hot enough, So you actually have an effect of that all over content, the matrix itself, to every single element in your test, right? So if you want to single element calibrate, that's not going to work with only that iodine standard. So you need to manipulate it anyway, right? So you use your standards, right, to create a standard in a matrix. There's no way around it, right? Otherwise, you will always fail. So that's one thing that I actually never said openly, because it's a part of the method that is our IP, right? But it's not that like you do only this, you will be able to test correctly, right? But that's one part of it. So what we do is we have certified standards in between to check single elements, but then we also need to calculate the amount of less or more heat that will cause by not being in the matrix. And that's not as linear as you would think. That's harder. That's very difficult because the ionization strength of every element is different, right? So for example, if you have fluoride, you can't excite fluoride, but it's very hard, won't be able to test with ICP. But something like strontium is super easy, so all these differences you need to be aware of to make this thing work. And obviously 16 years is quite a long time for us to learn all this, and we learned it, but we can't reveal everything in that case, but that's the way we do it. That's why it's actually that usable, okay? And you also, we can talk about this ages, and people would possibly just sleep after watching this, but it's, it's the way it is. It's hard work, it's a lot of knowledge, and yeah, we do these things. We do like reliability runs on our tech too. You need to do that too. From time to time, you need to check if your nebulizer still works the way it should. You can't see that on the tests. It's a fluctuative error, so it might be just doing the thing for a while and then not doing it anymore for one test. What do you do then? Right? So you do things like that once a while. You need to check all your holes because there could be something in them. It causes a fluctuative error. It's just, you can't imagine. It's funny to me sometimes. People go and test us, like Sanjay or Richard, and I respect them. They're doing a great job. But without all these insights, it's very hard to assess something, it's very difficult. So I look at it and think, oh, wow, if that would be the case, that would be so easy, but obviously it's not.
So you basically have to make a calibration model using both the standard as well as the standard deviation with the heat of the plasma. So
yeah, you need to at least.
That's just a super large sample size. It's giving you an accurate model of N. So I guess the experience, the 16 years, does really matter in that instance to get accuracy.
Well, it's also a model of a method. is also about how much accuracy do you need, and where is actually the accuracy of the machine compared to the unknown sample error that you have. You need to understand that, like when I look at Sanjay and Richard's last one, I liked it. It was really good. It wasn't bad at all. But they only look at the error in this machine, But you have people at home, they've never done anything analytical. They take that sample, like this error, you need to assess too. So when we assess that error, we came up with every element different. Molybdenum has a very high error in this case, and you cannot overcome that error. You forget about that. You need to calculate for it. You need to say, yep, that's it. And I can't go lower than the error that this unknown sample would cause me. So when you have plus, you will have a 1 microgram to 2 microgram average error in every sample, like maybe for all the 40 elements or whatever we test. You know what I mean? Like, so you have, let's say on 1 microgram, I would say it's like 10%. Still, like maybe 10% around that come back with an error that is not caused from this machine. It's caused by the guy that sampled the wood. And it's one microgram. So what I do is, if I see, we call that, so this is called like limit of quantification, right? So you have a limit of detection, which the machine will give you. And I can manipulate that to go super low. Like you can just make it up. Like it's honestly, I know what to do to get it super low. But that's not realistic in a way of fit for purpose. If you take a sample from your aquarium and you run it through it and it shows you 1 nickel, that's 0 nickel. Because our limit of quantification is like 1 to 2 of nickel. The reality is because that error will be in that sample that we receive. It will not be caused by this machine. This machine will measure correctly, but the error was because you had nickel for any reason in that sample that is but not reality-wise like causing anything in that sample because of its inactivity in that aquarium. So there is an issue with sending away, with shipping samples, with handling samples, with filtering samples. It's a no-go to let somebody that is never used to it filter a sample and ship it off. It's causing so much error in the trace element solutions. We don't touch that samples. We don't do anything there. We put them in because we don't want to touch them. There will be more error, right? So looking at for the perspective of what is possible for me to achieve, 1 microgram is the highest amount that you can reliably possibly achieve. Molybdenum would be maybe 5 microgram that you would be achieved, because molybdenum is everywhere and you will have it somewhere in some samples. As lower as you go, as more you get this problem. So realistically, there is a limit. There is a limit to not what we can test here in the lab, but there is a limit to the service itself. The overall picture of what we're doing here is receiving samples from people at home that maybe never had anything to do with chemistry, that are reef keepers, sending them to us, and that's it. And there is no point we can be better than that error, And mostly it is that error that is the limit to it. That's it. It's not here,
I think this is a good leeway. Obviously, if some of the error is coming from the sampling on the consumer end, what are some good tips that you could give to consumers to lower that error rate and have a better sample? Things that some people might not be doing, but really hardcore people might, do. Is there tricks that you can share? Or just luck?
Yeah, it is luck, man. There's always a little bit. There's no 100%. That's the point, So I can tell you now, and maybe 20% of my customers will hear it, and it will be okay. But it will never. You will never reach all of them. You end up, but it doesn't matter. So what I do is I put my hand into the samples. I'm not washing my hand before something. It don't matter if you do it. That's luck. You put it in somewhere in the middle of the tank. You try to clean it 3 times, 4 times, cap on, gone. That's it. There is no way you can do that better. It's all luck. That's luck. And it's not bad. It's not like it's not working. It's not like you will need the 1 microgram accuracy. We'll take care of that. We'll give you a 0 because you don't need to worry about it if there is 1 microgram of zinc There is no one micron. There is 0 micron. Possibly. You don't know. It's just, so we go on a safe side. We have not detected it, right? Because the error is there. But it won't change anything to your aquarium. You go and dose your nickel and zinc if you want to. You know there's not too much in there. I think in one of my main talks, or a lot of my main talks in the beginning, I said ICP is fit for purpose and it's made for detecting errors. It's not made for dosing. Like it's 20-80, 20% dosing, 80% error correction. I might have changed it a little bit. Nowadays, we are at the reef, we do science here, we know maybe that some of the elements will cause beneficial effects in aquariums and in corals. And maybe it's changed to 70-30, but it's still 70% error correction. That's what you do. That's your success. I won't say the bad word, but you messed something up, right? And you'll find it. That's it.
So so with Sanjay and Rich Ross's article, the last one that they did, they came up with a couple conclusions, and I think the one that I pulled away and a lot of people pulled away from is stick with one ICP company and go with them. And your explanation today makes so much more sense for that conclusion because you guys are doing the same method every single time, no matter what. It makes a whole lot of sense to me to stick with one company now after you've described all that.
It is holistic. It's the word that Salem used that I love. What our approach at Triton is always a holistic approach. So it comes to every part of Triton being a holistic approach because that solves a lot of problems in reef keeping, right? Because the chaos is our scientific enemy. Right? So people doing whatever, and you don't know what, filtration-wise, dosing-wise, that's my scientific enemy because I cannot assess anything out of a carotid tank. While the Triton method is the only holistic method, ruling you, forcing you into a specific framework that gives me no chaos. It's order. So I can read out things. My data is very reliable on full Triton systems because that's a scientific framework for me, right? So I can extract information. There's a little change. There will be just one change to the whole thing, and I know what the problem is, right? So testing-wise, it's the same. Sticking to a company like Triton, for example, which is a bit different because we are holistic, but sticking to one company causes that holistic approach to help you. So it will be, I'm sticking to this company, then I use their trace elements, for example. They're obviously maybe error matched together. I suppose that's the case. In our case, it is, So you walking that holistic way. And that's for me, that's all my success. All my customers' success is because they work holistically and I can help them better. And that's the way Triton works. So sticking to one ICP company is one part. I would say the conclusion, though, for me as a reef keeper would also be because you're trusting them anyway. You're trusting them. So this is that which company do I trust is also one that you need to think of. What does this company do for me to earn my trust? Very important because for me, obviously, for example, brought that machine over to the US to show you, right? And it was a big effort, but that was because I wanted to earn trust, right? And that's another thing that you need to look for when it's a trust thing. So when I trust a company, I will drive a car before I buy it. You know what I mean? Like things like that. It's a very common thing we all know from our everyday life. But in reef keeping, people kind of don't do that. I don't know why. Like they just, where you go? I send my test away. For example, if I would ask the people that listen to us right now and watch us, you send your sample away. How many of you have seen the machine that tests your water? They'll be like, maybe 90% would say, yeah, exactly.
99. Yeah.
No. Right? So what I do today and always when I have a live and it's about ICP, this is why I'm asking you always beforehand, what is the interest here? Is I'm going into the lab, so you see a machine. You finally see this is not a mystery thing. We have it, and we test it on this thing. It's not like you send your water and out, they're like, yeah, and it could be, right? It could be, so, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of things to that,
That's why you're bringing that machine over to the States when you did was huge.
Yes.
Otherwise,
Yes.
I mean, what are you selling? We're going to take your water, we're going to vaporize it, and then we're going to tell you what's in it, right? That's pretty magical.
Raj, just honestly, who is forcing me to do that? Like, really, honestly, I get these samples. I'm not, but I'm getting samples here. What is forcing me to do the test? Nothing. Like, I could give you a palette of tests that you would be happy with, and you're like, oh, nice, everything is green, all right. And I would have nothing. Honestly, you need to distrust me.
Like the therapist girl, isn't that what she did?
No, I don't know. but you know what I mean? Like, it's a distrust need to be earned. You need to be a bit Richard Ross, a little bit more Richard Ross, like a bit more skeptical towards everything you buy. And that's what I really liked to Richard Ross. And once I talked to him and I said, like, I'm the most skeptical reef keeper ever. I bought an ICP machine to test like my water. I'm super skeptical, So I'm using 10 times. But realistically, that is something that I think is very needed when you look at ICP testing or anything related to reef keeping. Who do I trust? Which company? Why do I trust it? Some of us companies, owners, reef keepers. I'm a reef keeper. I really am an aquarist. Like, I have my aquarium here, right? I'm not supposed to show you, but it's like, it's important that that we do things to gain that, to earn that trust, and then you rely on that company better than relying on somebody that never showed you his ICP machine, because that's not a good sign,
Yeah, you had mentioned obviously, and the Triton method had become a big thing. I don't know, what was it, 6-7 years ago, where everybody, like, I had a sump that was a Triton sump with a huge refugium in it, and wasn't doing the water changes, doing the trace elements, all the things. And you had said that there's a lot of, you see a lot of yourself in Salem, and he had just come out with this DOC article, and there's some differences in your opinions on how to, in that article and your method. So I'd love for you guys to kind of go back and forth on that article a little bit and talk about the differences, because I know that there's, obviously no water changes, and macroalgae is questionable according to Salem's article, but this is all stuff that has been very successful for you over the years, right?
Yeah, but it's perspective, man. It's a wrong perspective. It is not black and white. Salem and May, I would say, agree on a lot of things looking at reef keeping, because we say that the only way to overcome a lot of errors is a holistic way. A holistic way doesn't exclude bacterial filtration. I choose another filtration because I saw a benefit of making it match to whatever else filtration I have. You need to understand that, like an export mechanism, it's export. You have a filter to get rid of stuff, right? So if you do the same you do for a water change, the water change has the same reasoning to get rid of stuff, like that's, so you do a 10% water change as a tool in your aquarium, you get rid of 10% of what you want to get rid of, right? And 90% will be your filter, right? Because it need to be doing something. So now you have a 90 to 10 ratio in a week. Okay, so I went there and said, well, if I work holistically, I can make that 90%, 100%, and I don't need a 10% anymore. That's the easiest way to look at it, right? So I don't need a water change and the export mechanism like an export, because my filter is more efficient, right? The way Salem look at that, the problem he's facing is a scientific way, is a Triton way. He's a scientific thinking person that looks at a holistic way to solve organic carbon in aquariums. It will lead to a holistic method, and then you have two holistic methods the first time in reef keeping, maybe, Right now, you only have Triton. So realistically, I don't disagree with any of that. When I said in a video, I disagree with some parts, it's a bit like he's young, he's doing the same mistakes I did. It's just he got very offensive against the old school things. So it's like, I'm not, it was not the scientific part of it. It's absolutely correct. Like there's always benefits and downsides to everything we do. And we need to holistically to make them balance each other. That's what I do in the Triton method. We could go through the Triton method and it will be so much science, there will be so much understanding there. And it's not a supplementation method at all. We have a filtration method. Triton method is a filtration method matching to the supplementation we add on top. So infusion is what we actually add on top. It's not even about calcium and magnesium. People just have the wrong perspective. And in a lot of cases in reef keeping, I think one of the problems right now is the perspective of one bottle will solve my issues or one ICP test will solve my issues. That's not going to happen. It's the whole thing you need to look at.
But that's always been the case. Everybody always wants to find that silver bullet, right?
The holy grail
project, the holy grail, right? If I put this, gosh, what was the products back then? I think it was Mark Weiss. He sold these powders and different bottles of stuff that was meant to do all these crazy things for your aquarium. Filters this, it takes care of your corals, feeds your fish, whatever it was. He had a product that would, you would give it to you just in a bottle.
Yeah.
But everybody wants that because it's an easy out if it works. But it never works.
It works is the point,
Yeah.
And this is the marketing part that I hated. That's the marketing part that I made Triton I created Triton for that. That's honestly the truth. That's what I did. This is because the ways we do it, the investments we do, shows all of this. It would be so much easier to just take my show tank and sell bottles and sell. That's something. It's cyanobacteria that will help against that, and that's against flatworms. Here you go. And it's you sell and sell and sell, and then I buy 3 Porsches and I'm done. But that's not my way, I guess.
So I guess in reference to the Triton method, in my mind, it makes a lot of sense that you've articulated you designed that as a control to gather data, to dial in ICP, N-DOC, to have consistency or try to have as much consistency as possible to troubleshoot all those issues. So I think that, you have obviously ushered in a new era to where inorganic chemistry is relatively mastered, 95% of the way there, I would say, if not more, to where that is no longer a hurdle we have with keeping our tanks. I guess in my mind, I put on that scientific or that skeptical hat, and the one thing I disagree with is macroalgae, right? So I guess in my mind, would you be open to like a Triton method like 2.0 to where you are continuing to evolve, as new science comes out and you create a new data set? So like, macroalgae is going to produce DOC, hydrophobic, hydrophilic. I understand you have the skimmer downstream, but that's only going to remove fluvic and humic substances, hydrophobic components. All those polysaccharides, the hydrophilic ones, are still going to be in the water. If you're not doing water changes, to me, that says in like, it's going to be a long time maybe, but 5 or 10 years, if you've got that Triton system, there could be issues. And I think the Triton system works 95% of the way, but I guess I'm interested in that 5%, right? And the same way you've looked at inorganic chemistry, I think there's a biochemistry angle that's not been explored. And I think that's where the trailblazing should be. So if you're about trailblazing, why not have a new updated method or explore new as well?
That's absolutely okay. So we don't say we're never making a 2.0, but it's another method. It's still holistic. And we'll need to start new for that. Like, so you have you're looking at a 16-year-old method that never changed, right? So we know everything about that, right? So it's kind of the knowledge and the time and the work that you put in there. Now we could start a new one, and we're thinking of it because things have changed in 16 years. For example, the availability of live rock in a lot of places is not given anymore. And our method relies a lot also on live rock. So you need to have quite a bit of live rock. So we use that understanding of the 16 years to change things, and we can do that very easily. So if you come up with even something, we can work together to get a new Triton method, a new holistic method, or whatever you want to call it, But what I disagree with you is that we have mastered inorganic chemistry. That's not true. And you will love what I do next. I will do this one more time when I'm done. It's not too far to go anymore. But that's absolutely not true, mate. That's a lot to go still. There is a lot of things, and we're working on it right now. I worked on it for the last 5 years, and yeah, that's not true. The other part of the organic carbon, 7 years ago, I agreed fully with you. 7 years ago, that's why I started N-DOC, because that percentage, that 5%, that 10%. Maybe it's even more than that, right? Because you have external organic carbon influences too, like pollen. I found that I've tested pollen. I possibly, can share it with you guys at one point. It's a massive amount of in different places in the world. Like maybe not in, I don't know, downtown Chicago, maybe you find one tree, but you know what I mean? It's different, right? So in the UK, where in London, in the outskirts of London, where everybody is into hardcore gardening, you need to go, these guys are it's unbelievable. You go there, you've gone mad, and there's everywhere, garden center everywhere, and the most famous guy is actually the gardening guy. It's really, they're really good in gardening and they love it. And these guys have a lot of problem with pollen every year, right? So we did that N-DOC, created that N-DOC. And like you say, we obviously looked at our organic carbon, inorganic carbon, nitrogen amounts, to understand, is there a problem coming up, right? And then how do we overcome that, right? And it's not a problem. I don't say water chains are evil. They are not the evil thing that you shouldn't do. You need to just use it as a tool. There is no way around doing a water change when you have lead in the tank. You need to do it. But you need to do it when it's useful for you. I'm not eating my steak with a screwdriver. I'm using a fork, right? So, that's the way it works, use that tool when it's needed. So don't get me wrong. I'm not against water chains, yeah, exactly. It's something. It all has its place in reef keeping, exactly like everywhere else. The tools you need to know how to use them, when to use them, and everything is wrong. That's the way it works. But sorry.
Okay, so one thing in terms of how inorganic chemistry is not mastered. I've seen a lot of other companies that have continued to push, rubidium, copper dosing, things like that. At least when I've looked at the literature, it's maybe a natural seawater, but there's not a lot of biological usage as of now that's been established for those elements. And we know that copper and other ions can obviously be bound up into rock, into sand, into substrate. So in my mind, do you think that people are barking up the wrong tree and they're measuring absorption, not consumption? They're seeing a decrease in these because they're just entering into something inorganic in the system rather than actually being utilized by an organism.
Definitely. Yep, that's a marketing joke for me. Sorry to say, this is all based on I'll make money now. I've seen companies selling barium, for example, and for a reef keeper, if his barium is low, you just add a little bit of dry food for fish, and you have it. It'll be there. It's there. It's in there. So that's ages. We don't sell any barium because it's toxic even. Like even go too high, you have a problem, right? But there are companies doing it because you test for it. So if it's too low, you just dose it. We do not do that. That's a trust thing too. We will never do that, right? So no, rubidium. I tried rubidium. It's caused a lot of issues in my aquarium. In the aquariums, the test aquariums we had. That's a long time ago because it's kind of set to be in seawater, like you say, but it's in aquariums. For me, no usage, so we're not selling it. Fluoride is a thing that we started kind of testing because of pressure from outside. But I'll always say, even if I'm in a talk or I got invited, people ask for fluoride, and I'll say, nah, not for me. I don't believe in it, and you need to believe in it really to use it. I don't believe in it at all. You know, I think there's marketing reasons to push fluoride. That's again like testing it and selling it. I had in my aquarium in the past, and it's a very, obviously, there was a very famous aquarium back then. I had 0 fluoride for maybe 3 years, and the thing looked like awesome. There was a 1 meter clam in there, 1 meter corals all colored up. There was no fluoride in it, right? So, and I could test it. So it's just not really, for me. If you believe in it, you buy it, right? And that's a little bit scientific issue. So I think Salem and me, we kind of don't like it, but there are people that do that. They just, they buy the barium and they buy the rubidium, but there is a trust issue because you need to understand why this is sold. So, the intention of Triton is a very important thing for me. So when I brought ICP testing, for sure I wanted to make money. For sure, I wanted to make a product that is good for reef keeping and produce money and is a good new idea. But they also was forced to do work on how these elements may be either beneficial or not, right? I was the guy that set up all the set points for it, and it's still valid. And nobody else is doing that work because why would you? You buy an ICP machine, use my set points. Easy, who would go redo the set points? Nobody, right? But in that process, obviously, we learned a lot too, right? So in our case, the intention was going the step forward and creating a good product that we can make money on and is good for the customers. If you look at the next company doing it, it's more of a movement towards the money. It's like, oh yeah, that's good money, so I'll go and do it, right? So you need to be careful. Again, with the trust, with all these little things, and rubidium is exactly the same. So they'll be on top of my idea in the past or my creation at the end. There'll be people that want to make money with other things, and then they will come up with something. It's not different to something that will help you against cyanobacteria. When you have a bottle with cyanobacteria, and now maybe rubidium, maybe barium, So it's the same approach.
It takes a lot. For a company not to take that stance, as fads come and go, and I've seen that. We've all seen that. We've seen that throughout this entire industry. We see it in other industries too. There's products that I have refused to make because it's a bad design. It's like that's a flawed design. It's a flawed idea, or this is bad for the aquarium, and I technically missed out on all these profits that could have been realized, but there has to be integrity, right? You have to operate in a way that people can trust you. And unfortunately, people have these short-term memories where they forget about these things. They forget that these companies push these poor products, or, they just forget that even existed. Or they recognize that it's a fad and it's gone, but they don't hold that company accountable for that. And and I'm glad you're bringing that up because people do need to pay attention to these type of things to say, okay, if I'm trusting this company or this person with my reef tank, and look, we have a lot of blood, sweat, tears, and money in our tanks, all right, and you're trusting this company or this person, look at their whole portfolio of work. Look at their where they started, what they have done. Like anybody can make a mistake. Any company can make a mistake. A person can make a mistake. Say, you know what? Everything, I thought this was the right thing, and everything that I read or researched said this was the thing, but today, now I know that's different. All right, that's part of science. But there's things that the people know. These companies know that this product or this idea is total shite, but they still push it.
Yeah, so, I have had so many fights, Raj, about exactly that. And it was internal fights too, internal and external fights. Like, I have so many people working for me, with me, and they're like, Ehsan, just bring it. People want it. And I was like, nah, I'm not bringing nitrate testing. I'm not bringing. Nitrate testing does not work in a lab. That's not going to work. I'm not going to bring it. You know how many people ask me for that? We want to have nitrates on our test results, Nah, will not happen. As long as I'm here, I'm not doing that, right? And it's not only external, it's not only people outside asking, because it's also inside people asking, because they want, for sure, they think if they want it, just give it to them, but that's not the right way. So I stick to this, and I'm very happy about being now successful with it, because that trust kind of comes back now to us, and you see there's a chaos out there. And it's so easy for me. It's easy for me to buy MS. I have a boat that is worth 5 MS machines, like sell the boat, buy 5 MS machines, or we have MS machines everywhere. But I'm not doing it because they're not bringing you anything, right? Like, it's not the right thing for the people. They are not able to assess it, but we are, and then we're kind of responsible for doing that. And in that case, then we earn that trust in that way, So this is the way we always worked, and we'll keep working as long as this is my company, right? And I don't think that's the wrong
nitrate testing. They just have to take over Triton. You heard it here first.
Exactly. Either that, or they go into a shop and buy a droplet test, which is the best way to do it right away.
Yeah. Ehsan, earlier in the conversation, you had mentioned ICP tests are good 80% to detect error and 20% for dosing. With the recent trend of the moonshiners method, do you think that people are playing with fire, relying on ICP tests to dose trace elements like they have been?
No, I just think that they maybe are not doing what they think they do, right? So looking at errors and everything that you have in there, shipping samples away, MS testing errors, super high, in seawater. You do it, and you do it right, because if you dose a trace element and it's gone too high, it will actually cause issues, right? And any ICP test will show you that too high, right? This is the error, the mess up that you could have, okay? So I don't think, this is my way of doing it, measure and replace. I created that way, right, of trace element dosage. And that's a good way. That's the best way of doing it. So either if you do it with the company you talked about, or any other company, if you test ICP and based on that, those trace elements, that's in the moment the best way. It's just not the way you think. Maybe you get sold on it, that it is very, very precise. Like it's you're right on 1.0567 zinc. That's not true, right? So you don't know that. That's not going to happen. But it's fine, effectively, if you're in between 2 and 4. That's fine. And that's what these machines can do, and every ICP test can do for you. So if it's done correctly. But honestly, yeah, it's not harmed. So if they do it correctly, if you trust them, send your ICP somewhere, you get results back, you dose trace elements serially, the ones that you think will be good. Look at your aquarium. If they cause something positive for you, keep going. If they cause nothing, stop doing it, because that's not useful. And then when you keep on going doing that, you keep on going ICP testing to not overdose them. That's it. It's a very secure way of reef keeping if you want and believe into trace elements to have something beneficial. And that's a very honest way to do it. I don't think it's different to Triton at all. It's not. There's no difference right now. There's no major difference in doing one brand to the other right now. Like from the perspective of a reef keeper, it is different of who you trust, who will put in more effort in finding out what trace elements, what kind of trace elements, which salts, which chelators are used in that solution to keep them, available. But anything else, that's absolute, like the moonshine away is like, that's Triton. It stays. I think if you look at, just compare the set points, that's the main thing. If the set points are the same, and from my knowledge, everybody's using our set points, so there's nobody saying you need 25 zinc in there, so that's what you want to reach. That's it. There is logically no difference. So they're not playing with fire. No. They just possibly are like, let's say some people over-promise and under-deliver. Maybe that's the case, but it's not dangerous. I think usability errors are more what I see in America sometimes. Like, I don't really believe it's one specific brand. It's more like the way you reef keep. Some people think, I think they in America think more is better, which is not. It's just a personal thing. I don't think it's right. I think that's the issue where I see all this bumping up elements.
Sure. Well, I want to be cognizant of your time. Do you guys have any other questions that are burning before I ask about the aquarium?
Oh, you go. Come on, say them. One more for me.
Are we gonna get a DOC analyzer or total carbon analyzer in the United States? Long wait time.
I'll give you Joe's phone number. I'm trying to. And we go both sides. Look, you're left, I'm the right. They're just smashing. You'll go for it.
Okay. Right away. I'll text Joe every day.
Yeah. Go. Just go in, and Joe will come to me saying, "Oh, what have you done? Why?" So, mate, there's only one way. Get the N-DOC. Get the N-DOC. Nah, we'll work it. We're working on that. We're also working on other stuff. So it's like, say, it's just hard. Sometimes I want to tell you guys more and just go for it. But I'm responsible for a lot of people, and I sometimes can't do these things, but I promise you, when it's time, I will tell you a lot of things. And Salem will love it anyway. So we go crazy. I can see Salem on energy drinks jumping in his room.
I love that energy drink is part of Salem's brand now.
Yeah, no problem. We'll work on something. It's all right.
Awesome.
Well, we'd love to see the aquarium that you guys have set up. If you want to take us over there on a little tour, we've been teasing it a little bit, and we've seen it teased on your Instagram a couple times.
No,
this thing is going to be nice.
My new baby. Can you see it here? Like,
yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think you can see that we made like an 8-degree angle kind of light thing. You see that?
Yep.
It's kind of angled this time, because when we had the Lanis, there was a bit of a difference to the light that we had. It was more flat and everywhere, so the angle was nicer. The guys are working upstairs. Sorry for that. So it's Linda and all the guys. So yeah, the tank. What is really cool is that pipe work. Show you pipe work. So it's not too long. That's a 90 closed loop. So we went very big on that pipe work. You see the tank fittings there, we cut them up, but what actually is pretty cool on this tank is, see that, I'll just go back, you see it. So we loop that pipe work, so you see that, it's actually, that's the pump, right? That's like a hydro.
So that's the pan array?
Okay, so there's a pan array. It's a massive thing. So you have 90 pipe work going in it, and then it runs underneath the sump, right? And then it goes up the other side and pumps the liquid back in. So this thing is changing directions, right?
Yeah.
So you look at it, so it changes direction. It once pumps upwards, and then the other way around, it sucks in here and then just pumps the other way. And which is really cool is it's like you will have 4 pumps in that system, but because you don't have any suction side like that you can't cover, I will cover all this in rock. It will just look awesome. So you won't even see any pump in this tank. And we have 2 of them. They look a bit. Can you see it? We have one here,
Yep.
and then we're not clumped. We have another one here. So we have 2 of these monsters sitting there. I turned one on in my pool, and that thing that's unbelievable. I mean, I don't, and I think that's overdoing it again. But yeah, so that's one special thing that I can show you now. It's obviously an empty tank right now, but we get the filter very soon. I think a month from now, from when you show that video online, that podcast. I think then we kind of set to get it filled. So there's a lot of videos coming from me on my channel for this thing and explain what we do and why we do it. But yeah, it's a bit of a different approach again, So it's not that the standard aquarium again. We'll have something for the lights too that is very special. Yeah. If you have any questions, let me know, Remy.
Oh, that's
So you guys are. It looks like Australia got to you with the Illumagic lights. Are those Illumagic?
Yeah, I'm very happy with them. Like I said, I did like a video. I do videos on these things all the time. And I had the Lanis, right? And this lights just convinced me. We asked the people what to use, and they came with all these lights, and there were Lanis with them. I sold the Lanis at one point in like, I think 7-8 years ago. I sold them, so it's not my land anymore, my lights. But they convinced me because you can change that little. It's so easy to change them, and they're not expensive. The little PCB where the LEDs are on, and I think that's a very important thing. Like you be able on your own to change them. That's a hobby. I like that. I like to change it on my own, like it's really good. So I was kind of freaking out about that. And Anthony told me about it and said like, yeah, well, that's pretty convincing for me. There's other things obviously too. We have the Mexican reef tank, Juan Gabriel's reef tank, Reef 3.0. That's all lit by, and it's looking really good. So I'm the proof person, so I went for show me some good stuff and I'll be convinced. And then he sent me one of the lights and I looked at it, and there are other companies that wanted it too that I used, but I was very I was convinced of that thing. So that's why I put it on. It's pretty good. I wanted maybe more. I said like, I'm a light guy. I want like 21 of them. And then he's like, no, man, that's too much. That's too much. Don't 15 now. It's 15 almost now. All right. It's quite. And he's like, I was like, nah, okay. But afterwards, I get 21. They like, only if you want to, So yeah, it's good. But yeah, obviously, I'm very convinced of light being very important. Living here, that's very easy. It's very hot, a lot of light. So yeah, I think that's got to be a crazy tank. It's obviously it's also on. I mean, you can see that's not the final version, but we have it on chains, right? And that thing moves. There's rails up there. See that? So there's something coming. And it would be really cool for that too. A lot of people will go crazy on that. Yeah.
Well, that's motivating to get crack-a-lackin' plumbing my tank.
Yeah.
Jeez.
You need to think about plumbing that other tank.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
I know.
That's 44,000 liters.
Yeah. That's a beast.
I convinced him to. My God, I convinced him to put mangroves down there. You'll be nice. You'll having fun with that. Okay, that's going to be awesome. It's going to be worth it. But yeah, this is going to be my aquarium. The proof of our work. I like that. I always had an aquarium in the past to kind of as proof of concept. You know what I mean? It's good again. I don't want to just talk. I would like to show people something like I did with the ICP in 2014 in Denver. That's 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's good. Look at this guy. He's just watching us here.
Guy.
Julian Sam.
You guys do the Aussie way of using natural seawater? Or are you gonna mix your own salt?
No, we use natural seawater. You can't beat natural seawater. So as somebody that knows about chemistry a bit, I'll tell you there's no beating natural seawater. Not now, maybe 50 years from now, but right now I I use natural seawater. Actually, using natural seawater for water change is really, really good too. Like that's the best, right? So if you know where you got it from, and it's good seawater, it is no way out. In Australia, it's very common. We do it. I did it even in Germany. From time to time, I went to the North Sea and used that seawater because I could ICP test it, so it's fine. Like it's no problem. It was maybe not too. It was a bit low in salinity, but we just waited until it was evaporated, and it's fine. So it worked really well. But now salts are a very good way to do things because not everybody can get, natural seawater, and we need them. And there are good salts like NIOS is testing with us. You can have every batch tested Triton, and then you can see what's inside exactly. NIOS is a very good salt. But yeah, if you kind of use salt, you can always use salt. It's not a problem. But we don't do that. We'll just go and then leave it for 7-8 years, not do water changes to prove Salem is so wrong. And then and then N-DOC test, and we'll see all the organic carbon, and he was possibly right. Something like that, So it's good.
That's great. Well, Ehsan, I want to say thanks for coming on to Reef Therapy. We'll definitely have to do a follow-up episode with you as, technology changes and you guys got new projects underway. We'd love to do a, update on the tank, but it's got to be in person. So we're going to need a plane ticket to get to Cannes. So if you could, we also want to see that boat that's worth 5 MS machines. So.
Right.
Yeah, no problem, mate. You want to go fishing? No problem. No, I
want to see it all.
No, it's right. Yeah, you need. We went out last time. We saw a baby whale, like slapping mom to wake up. Unbelievable. But he was like hitting it with a tail on her head all the time, and she was like pushing it away. Like Peter, it was so good. No, it's a good place. It's a good place. Definitely come over. No problem. Feel invited. Okay.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Ehsan, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Reef Therapy, and we'll catch you in the next one. Bye, guys.
Take care, guys. Bye.